अरे सेव मेहरा जी छा गए।
बचा लेना।
जिंदगी में सेव करना जरूरी है, मगर जब बात पैसों की हो सिर्फ सेविंग से काम नहीं चलेगा। इक्विटी म्यूचुअल फंड्स में इन्वेस्ट कीजिए और अपने सेविंग्स को आगे बढ़ने का मौका दीजिए।
Mutual fund investments are subject to market risks. Read all scheme related documents carefully.
This episode of Cut the Clutter, I will start with a very familiar Hindi saying or Hindi line of wisdom. I am sure there is something similar in every other language. So all of you figure it out, because I know that many of you have other mother tongues, which I unfortunately have no knowledge of or very little knowledge of. So this Hindi line is, आए थे हरिभजन करने ओटने लगे कपास. Now literally this would mean like you had come to pray to the Lord, but you got into the business of dealing with cotton. Now that's a bit prosaic, but basically in a sense it means that you had come to do something, so one thing, but started doing completely different. That applies to today's episode of Cut the Clutter, because I had come prepared since last evening, because many of you have been asking me to do an episode on Bangladesh's economic problems, particularly now that Bangladesh has gone to the IMF asking for a sizable bailout. So I was all set for that, but I discovered something else. Another something came up, and this something has what features? It has Imran Khan, Pakistan, more importantly, it has cricket, it has ball tampering, it has a crook currently in custody, it has a global financial scandal with great deep implications for Pakistani politics. It also has a game between two clubs called, and I quote exactly, Peshawar Perverts and Faisalabad Fothermuckers. Now, I'm not making that up, and I'm not deliberately mispronouncing something just so as I don't break a law or a rule, because this is after all a family channel. This is exactly how those who organize these games of cricket name these clubs. So because they also wanted to get around the same issue of printability. So they call them Peshawar Perverts and Faisalabad Fothermuckers. Now throw in the middle of all this an Arab sheikh and a few billions of dollars going to a political party, namely Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf, PTI, or the party of Imran Khan. So that is the story. The story popped up just late this afternoon from the Financial Times of London. So thank you very much, Financial Times and its reporters. Stellar reporting by him, Simon Clark. So thank you very much, Simon Clark. Now, some elements of this story have been known. So the story is, remember the name now because this will feature often now. The story is that a man called Arif Naqvi, a very successful star Pakistani businessman called Arif Naqvi, shades of Vijay Mallya, shades of Nirav Modi. You can just find your own parallel in India. So he emerged obviously from the go-go times in financial markets and built a large empire, Dubai-based empire of private equity investing. His company was the Abraj Group, and he was the founder of the Abraj Group based in Dubai. At its peak, Abraj Group was managing $14 billion in private equity funds. And this is almost about 10 years back, when 14 billions meant a lot more money than it might now. Although at any point of time, $14 billion is a lot of money, particularly for a Pakistani company or a Pakistani founded company. Remember, Pakistan's foreign exchange reserves at this point are about $8 billion and they are in trouble. So I'm just using this as a ballpark comparison that this was a very big company. Now this company became a star, and the company's founder became a bigger star. He also became an international star. He became such a big star, and he was taken so seriously that Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation gave him tens of millions of dollars with the idea that these will be invested in hospital projects in the Middle East and in the Islamic world. Remember, this was also a period when the Western world was also trying to cozy up to the Islamic world in the Middle East after all the damage they had done in Afghanistan and in Iraq, and after all the issues they'd had with global Islamic terror, Al-Qaeda was declining, Islamic State was rising. So take yourself into that time frame. That is when Barack Obama also, as president, sanctioned it was a kind of presidential project to increase engagement in the Middle East, particularly in Middle Eastern economies. And he had the US government also invest $150 million into the Abraj group. And then things began to unravel in the course of time. I will come to in a little bit, but once again, for all this, while we have known about a lot of this, these complaints have been registered and they've been investigated in Pakistan now for 7 years. It's only now that with Simon Clarke's story, we have it all put together. Now, what was Naqvi doing? Naqvi became a sympathizer or a supporter of PTI, Imran Khan and PTI. Everybody is a fan of Imran Khan, the cricketer in Pakistan, as was he. And if you're holding a party in England, the upper crust in England is cricket crazed, not so much the working class. And you got Imran Khan at one of those parties. That was a big draw. So he decided to hold cricket matches at his country resort or his country estate. And this country estate was in 14 acres, large country estate. He had a 17th century house there in the country estate. This country estate was called Wootton. It was in the village Wootton, which is in Oxfordshire. Oxfordshire is like in the heart of the cricket country in England. It has Northamptonshire on one side, Warwickshire, Gloucestershire. These are all the famous county teams that you keep reading about. And in many of these teams, Pakistanis have starred and played for long tenures. Now, he organized these T20 cricket tournaments between 2010 and 2012 at Wootton. He made a beautiful, proper pitch. And these teams came, teams means of rich people, but Imran also came at least in 2012 and bowled there. And we have it once again from the FT story. We have a quote from Henry Blofeld, the commentator. Remember the guy, the English commentator, he didn't know too much about cricket. In fact, he was an awful cricket commentator, had a great voice, was a great storyteller, and spent a lot of his time looking for earrings that women wore in particularly in India-Pakistan matches, right? And trivialized cricket. In any case, he's not my favorite. So he was also invited or hired to do commentary at these matches. So these T20 matches were taking place. This was called the Wootton, WOOTTON, Wootton T20 Cup. And the teams playing were Peshawar Perverts and Faisalabad Fothermuckers. And that's where Henry Blofeld is quoted as saying that, oh, Imran Khan even came and bowled there, and even now he could bowl really brilliant or really fine or mean fast in-swingers. Remember, Imran Khan was famous for bowling those in-swinging Yorkers and getting people clean bowled. Once again, the invite to rich Englishmen mostly for these matches. That invite from Naqvi said, and I quote from the FT story, you can play in order to impress or make a fool of yourself, or alternatively just to be an innocent bystander. And the tickets were £2,000 or £2,500. Now you can do a fundraiser. A lot of people do these fundraisers, and in UK this is a very popular thing, fundraisers like this. So that's not such a big deal, particularly £2,000, £2,500, because this was a get-together. This was also a networking opportunity, etc., etc. A day out in the country. That's how the elite lives in England. But the important part is that the same fund, now the funds that were collected for these matches, they were going into a company floated only for this purpose. And this company was called Wootton Cricket Limited. Now, besides these tickets, collection for these tickets, Wootton Cricket Limited also got a contribution of £2 million. £2 million from none else than a member of the ruling family of UAE. Now, this was a minister in UAE, also a member of the ruling family, his name being Sheikh Nahyan bin Mubarak Al Nahyan. Now, he was himself also a big investor in Pakistan. He also happened to be the chair of Pakistani bank Al Falah. he also gave £2 million to this Wootton Cricket Company, which was transferred to PTI, to Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf account. Now, this was transferred in a convoluted manner. Some of it was transferred directly, some of it was transferred, in fact, to a businessman in Karachi, and that businessman then onwards transferred it to PTI. This businessman's name is Tariq Shafi. So, a bulk of the amount was transferred to his personal account, from where he transferred it to PTI. So it looked like that was a way of getting around the law in Pakistan that prohibits a political party from getting money from foreign sources. Now, this you might say, oh, these things happen. £2 million or $2 million, what's it? About 20 crore rupees, big deal. Elections in the subcontinent take hundreds, thousands of crores of rupees. So what is 20 crore rupees? But the fact is, in 2017, Nawaz Sharif was unseated while he was Prime Minister with a very large majority on an indiscretion or alleged financial indiscretion, which wasn't even a fraction of this. So once Imran Khan was very much a part of this, he was involved with the establishment to sideline Nawaz Sharif. Then they put some Namka Vaste Prime Minister in Nawaz Sharif's place, who obviously could not run the government. They used Tehreek-e-Labbaik Pakistan to destabilize that government further, got the government out, held an election, which by hook or by crook, Imran Khan won, and while he did not have a majority, the establishment and the army got together to help him form a majority. But the whole thing was that Nawaz Sharif was corrupt. He was also sent to jail, again on the charges of what looks like a traffic offense, compared to this straightforward case of foreign money coming into PTI's accounts. Now, some bunch of money had come through this businessman, Tariq Shafi, and Imran Khan, in his reply to FT's questions, has said, look, I got this money from Tariq Shafi. Ask Tariq Shafi. It's for him to answer where he got it from. I can't check out where one of my contributors has got money from. But the important thing is that the same account, Wootton Cricket Limited, also transferred another 1.2 million or so. So total of about 2.3 million, also transferred more money to a foundation. Now that money came to a foundation in Lahore called the Insaf Foundation. Now, what is the full name of PTI? Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf. Pakistan Campaign for Justice. Now, that money went also to PTI. Where did that money come from? That money was contributed to Wootton Cricket by Abraj Group. And you know what? Abraj Group had not given that directly. Abraj Group had further billed it or debited it to another company owned by the same owner, Mr. Naqvi, and that is the holding company of Karachi's power distribution company, that is K Electric. K Electric is to Karachi what say BSES might be to Delhi, or to Mumbai, or CESC might be to Kolkata, the distribution company of Karachi. So this is a company that's in a regulatory environment, gets permits, gets deals from government of Pakistan, owns a utility company that transfers money to another company in Dubai, which then transfers it to this Wootton Cricket Company in London, and then Wootton Cricket Company routes it right back to PTI. So that is the other allegation. Now, these stories had come out about 7 years back. 7 years back it came out as one of the founders of PTI, whose name is Akbar Babar. He left in 2014, obviously fought with Imran Khan, and became a whistleblower and made these complaints to Pakistan Election Commission, or ECP, Election Commission of Pakistan. That Election Commission has been now probing this for more than 7 years, and they've collected testimonies and the money trails have been established. The only question is whose money it was, and then ECP, Election Commission of Pakistan, has to present its final report so action can be taken. But you know what? When governments change like that, today this is in power, today that is in power, even members of ECP would worry who this is going to annoy or who this is going to please, because nobody knows who's going to be in power 6 months hence. Now, if everything had gone all right with Abraj Group, then everybody would have got away with all this also. By 2016, Abraz had begun to get into problems. By 2017-18, they got into really serious problems. In fact, 2016, Abraz Group got into such a mess that they even tried to sell K Electric, and they tried to sell Hawk K Electric to a Chinese company meaning Shanghai Electric Power for 1.77 billion pounds. Now that did not happen, and that is something that Nawaz Sharif's government wasn't able to do, wasn't able to permit. Imran Khan attacked Nawaz Sharif's government for not permitting it, but even when he came to power, he didn't permit it, obviously because he would have also known that this will open a can of worms. So that company is still stuck as it was. In fact, while we talk about Imran Khan, in fairness, we should also mention that 2016, when Naqvi wanted to lobby to get permissions for him to sell his Karachi distribution company to the Chinese, he had also allocated $20 million to a lobbying fund, money to be given to Pakistani politicians. And there were also loose charges that some of that money was given to the Sharif family, which the Sharif family denies. And there is, at this point, there has been no investigation against them as yet, and there is no money trail as yet. So we should mention all that in fairness. Now, 2017, until 2017, Naqvi was still holding his own. 2017, Nawaz Sharif went to Davos as Prime Minister, and I remember there were signboards, there were hoardings of Abraj, the Pakistani founded company from Dubai. It was quite impressive because we had never seen a Pakistani founded company's hoardings on that promenade in Davos, and he also held a big dinner for Nawaz Sharif, the Prime Minister, to which a lot of people came. So by 2017 January, until then, he was still flying high. And then things, although he had financial trouble, but that's when things began to go wrong. And suddenly, the US government figured out, Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation first figured out, and they said the money that they had given away to be invested in hospitals had not gone in hospitals. And then Obama government moved in. Soon enough, US government filed cases against him, against Naqvi, and 5 others from his company for fraud, theft, attempted bribery, and more. Now, 2 of those 5 have already pleaded guilty. Naqvi himself is pleading innocence. 2019 April, Naqvi was arrested as he arrived on Heathrow. At this point, he's fighting a battle against extradition to the US, a bit like the Julian Assange story. And if he goes to the US, if he is extradited to the US, he has so many cases that under the brutal American law for financial crimes, he stands to go to jail for up to 291 years. And obviously, many of these sentences run concurrently, but he has that kind of serious charges against him. So this is now broken just at a time when Pakistani politics is in a very delicate stage. Imran Khan has just won all these by-elections in Punjab. He, with the help of the Supreme Court, has now taken over the government in Punjab. He controls more provinces than in Punjab than his rivals do. His rivals may have the central government or the federal government, Shahbaz Sharif. His is now a lame duck government. But Imran Khan's party has Punjab, which is almost 60% of all of Pakistan. Its weightage in Pakistan politics is about 4 times of what Uttar Pradesh's weightage in Indian politics would be. Because if Uttar Pradesh is about 15% of Indian politics or Indian parliament, Punjab in Pakistan is about 60%. Plus his party also controls Balochistan, Sindh. So his party is now very powerful. He is looking at a victory definitely in the election next year, but ideally from his point of view, he would like to bring down this government and have the elections done now. And what the government would want is that the Election Commission of Pakistan should take cognizance of all these facts and produce its report so they can show that Imran Khan, if anything, is as corrupt as his rivals might be, and in any case, he then has no right to call his rivals corrupt. And once a prosecution process begins, then, as you know, in our region, process is its own punishment, and that can mar many careers. So that is why this now has the potential of upending Pakistan politics at a very delicate point of time. Now, you might ask me, in the very beginning, I had also said ball tampering. What was I talking about? You might think that I was using it metaphorically to mean that they were just doing hera-fairy to get somebody in power, to ensure somebody's victory. It's not that. It's literally ball tempering. Maybe somebody has a sense of humor, or maybe this was an indication of the kind of thought process that goes on. So in fact, the rules that Naqvi set for this Wootton T20 Cup cricket matches allowed ball tampering. Why? Because the reason given, and this is a quote that FT has taken out from Wootton Cricket's own published material, it says, quote, because what is illegal today might become de rigueur tomorrow. So this might be illegal today, but tomorrow it will become an essential practice, so might as well practice it now. Now, the fact is that maybe some of the same psychology or the same mindset went into his business, fundraising, etc., etc. So his became a story, a very familiar story of a subcontinental tycoon who grew too fast, then he flew too high, and then got too close to the sun and ended up burning his wings.